Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this evening, what to expect if you're getting pregnant, and actually I should say if you also have a child in your 40s. This webinar is sponsored by the Houston fertility specialist, and I am Dr. Irena, psychologist with Houston Fertility Specialist, and I am delighted to actually talk about this. It seems like that this is a very popular topic this evening because we had a great response to the topic. And as I start, I'll go through the presentation, and you feel free to actually write your questions. You have on the bottom right side actually an opportunity to write your questions. So I will be I'll get them and collect them, so I'll get to them at the end of presentation. I look forward to actually receiving your questions. So this evening what we'll do is that I'll talk about what are the expectations, what to expect as an older parent, or actually if you're starting to this process. Then I'll talk about what do we know about older parents so far, and what about the things that we know about older children of older parents. And at the end I'll end up with some things that consider if you're in this stage of either if you have a child or if you're considering getting pregnant and you're in your 40s. Women are delaying parenthood, more and more, and usually some are, sometimes voluntarily, and most often it's for education and career. And sometimes, they're delaying, it's, not by choice, but they actually feel they haven't met a partner in their life. So they're really postponing that until much later in life. And what happens with fertility and age? Unfortunately, and you may have already experienced that even though there have been great advances made in medicine, to improve our lifespan and to influence our health. And we really haven't had that didn't translate it into equivalent extension in fertility, meaning that 40s are not really new 30s, in terms of fertility. So there is biological clock that's unfortunately impacts women much more than it does impact men. So if you're hoping to get pregnant, here's some things that you may encounter or expect. First thing is that you are quite likely to go through that you'll need fertility treatment. Most women who wish to become pregnant in their 40s will require fertility treatment. Then if you're actually 45, even sometimes less than 45, I'd say probably from 42 on, but definitely if you're 45 or older, you will need an egg donor or oocyte donor. And then, fertility treatment have their physically, emotionally, and financially, difficult, demanding. And what women find, and this is, regardless of age, is that they can be consumed, that their life can be consumed with infertility treatment. If you're in a position, or if you have to use an egg donor, usually what happens is that women experience sadness. They grieve the loss of their genetic child. They feel regret for having waited too long, for not starting earlier. They can also feel shame that something is wrong with them. They're not fully a woman, or if you can't have your own child. And there's also happiness for having a chance, or having another chance to have a child. So it's I think emotionally very charged decision. If you're trying to, so then, you will need, there's a higher chance of needing fertility treatment. And then there's also high chances of needing an egg donor. And that's exactly the reason why we have, because, women can use now egg donor. The number of pregnancies for women in their, mid to late 40s has increased. But what happens with pregnancies? There's certainly some risks in pregnancy, and such as preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, or hypertension. There is, it's mostly if you're actually using your own eggs or oocytes, higher chances of miscarriage, higher chances of C-section, and most often women are followed by a specialist, like a secondary specialist in addition to your regular OB. There's a high-risk specialist, or it's called also maternal fetal medicine, specialist. If you're using your own eggs or oocytes, there is increased risk for Down syndrome, schizophrenia, or autism. But if you're using an egg donor, that is not a risk anymore. And what are our social expectations about parental age? And it's interesting, there are actually norms, on, I guess, unspoken social norms about when is a good time to be a parent? When is a good time to have a child? And, you can apparently be either too young or too old to be a parent. And, this is actually a survey that was conducted so 96% of believe that women over the age of, it's not even, fully 42, so 41.7 are too old to be mothers. So I guess around, 41, 42, would be kind of like the limit. 90% believe that men over 47.3 years are too old to be fathers. So for men, I guess they have a little bit more of leeway. And it's interesting that only 30% believe that postmenopausal women should be mothers. So, which means that 70% of a population thinks that you should not be, or women should not be mothers after the onset of menopause, which is usually late 40s or I think the mean age is 51 or 52. So this is interesting. This is a cover for the New Yorker, and this is an article that came, I think, a couple of years ago, and really talked about this. She's too old to be a mother, and had an article about parents who also used an egg donor and who were pregnant in their late 40s and 50s. So. What are these older parents like? What do we know about them? What are they like? The nice thing is that they're more ready to be parents. What we know about parents who decide to become parents in their 40s, they're financially secure. They have completed higher education, so they have advanced degrees, and they have established careers. So these are people who, so older moms are in some way maybe more emotionally ready for parenting. They've achieved their career goals and their education, and they really want to have a family. They really want to be moms. Also, we know that older parents are better in dealing with basically everyday stress. So I guess, with age, so I'm talking, again, 40s, in their 40s, moms become more confident in dealing with ups and downs of parenting and report less parental stress than mothers in their 30s. So I wonder if, how much is that, overall confidence and comfort and life experience that help you deal so that you're not really that upset with smaller things. Parents are often in a committed relationship. They're in committed relationships, which means that they're either married or committed co-parenting relationship, and their overall family experience is positive, which means that they either tend to be married, or yeah, and even if they're not, they tend to split family responsibilities. So the burden is not only on mom. I guess they share, household chores and parenting. Um, and it's interesting, statistically it looks like that majority of moms are married. And then even if they're first time, single moms, first time single moms, they're more likely to build a stable support network before they have a child if they're older. So they really start the family with a good support network before they start having they're ready to have a family. Um, these moms really they're more likely to enjoy being with their children. And what happens is that they have greater appreciation and gratitude for their children. They feel lucky to have this opportunity. I mean, a lot of them didn't really expect that they would ever, be moms. So they feel, blessed and appreciative of the chance, to be moms or have another chance to, be moms. And, a lot of them waited for a long time to have the child. To have a child, so they're very involved, they're hands-on, and they're a lot less likely to employ nannies. So they really want to have their own experience of being involved, raising the child on their own without, getting help. Well, with age, in women, you may go through menopause at the same time that you have baby or, or if you have a young child. So, usually, menopause and raising young kids or parenting young kids, they're important and very distinctive life stages. So what may happen is that if you start having family later on, is that you may go through these very distinctive families, I'm sorry, very distinctive stages of your life at the same time. And what happens in menopause? It's a time of slowing down, turning it inward, reflecting, and there can be a conflict between natural tendency of menopause to slow down, turn inward, reflect, and really demands of high physical, high energy demands of parenting a young child. Um, and I would say that this is, parents also complain of having very low physical energy, feeling very, very tired. And I would say that that is probably, the major complaint that parents have. Women, approach menopause when as women actually go through menopause and their hormonal changes. It really affects or it affects their energy level, and they feel very tired and fatigued. And so what happens if you moms in their late 40s often describe being very tired, fatigued, overwhelmingly tired to most of the time. And what may happen is that they may not be they may not their partners and family members really may not understand how truly and awfully tired they are, and they may feel isolated and you know, isolated in this experience of being an older mom. And, parents also complain, I think for them it's very difficult to be involved in physical activities, such as, sports activities, doing uh, physical activities or physical play with their child. They're much more enjoying quiet, low energy activities such as, let's say, like reading, drawing, doing games on the floor, but not running, after a toddler or playing ball with a child. And what may happen also, especially with an older child, the child may notice that you look old, or that you can play with with him or her the same way that other parents are playing with their peers. Then, what also another things that parents are faced with is that they may be in a situation that they may be mistaken as a grandmother to your child. Or I mean, back to, there's a stigma that social stigma that you're too old, that you are too old to be a mom. And usually this starts happening around the time that, kids start, preschool, kindergarten. So you start, taking your child to preschool, you get involved in play dates or activities with your child. And all of a sudden, moms are surrounded with older moms, with these young moms who are either, not only that they're energetic, but they may be on their second child or third child. And then, in that setting, moms can be mistaken to be, child's grandparent rather than, the grandmother rather than the mom. And I do want to emphasize that we live in a culture that glorifies youth, so older, and it really dismisses older parents. And so older moms can feel dismissed and humiliated, and it may not be an easy experience. And here's, this is really an extreme, but, I wanted to show you, certainly a mom. This is a 65-year-old German woman who you can see she looks like a grandmother. I mean, this is an extreme, and this would, I have to say, would not be allowed, in this country. But she ended up going to, and it's not also allowed in Ukraine. I'm sorry, in Germany. So she ended up going to Ukraine to get pregnant. So she did end up, getting pregnant. And there's another mom where I think she's from Spain. She delivered twins, and you can see, she does look like a grandmother, even though she is a mom. But again, this is an extreme. And so, another issue that parents are facing, or they have to grapple with, older parents, is that you may not be around when your child is older. So it's not only about, being able to conceive and deliver the child, but what about the future? And, parents may not be around to see their child, for example, achieve milestones such as, graduate from college or get married or have kids. And, even if they're alive, and this is really important, is that they may not be physically capable and vibrant enough and healthy enough to be there for their child. So they may be alive, but physically and, not in the best shape, and health-wise not in a good shape. And, it's interesting, when older moms were interviewed, they actually, for this, reason, they often say, well, they wish they started their family earlier, 5 to 10 years earlier. So there is a sense of regret, that they wish they could have, turned the clock. Let's think about children, and I have to say we have actually limited research that was done mostly with, kids who were, conceived, either naturally or through egg donation, with moms who were in early 40s. So we really don't have research, and we're waiting for research, to be done on, moms who are in their late 40s or early 50s. So this would be really something, hopefully the research that will come, soon. But, what do we know? Children do feel wanted. Children of older parents often take center stage in their parents' lives, so they receive a lot of attention from their parents, and they feel loved and wanted. So again, these are the parents who have completed their careers. They're financially established. Completed their degrees. Professionally established. So they are motivated. They want to have children, and they want to spend time with their kids. They're also more likely to be settled professionally, and so so as I said, they can spend more time with their children. Children have significant financial advantages. Parents are financially secure. They're often actually well off. And so with that, what comes, with financial security, you have, children that are exposed to a variety of educational opportunities. They can travel. They can attend better schools, not necessarily private schools, but they can, they will attend better schools, and they're also encouraged and offered, supported in attending extracurricular, activities. So what happens when you have all of that? Moms and dads who are dedicated, who are financially well off, who are providing lots of, educational opportunities, who are also parents who are highly educated. It's not a surprise that children of older moms had higher intelligence scores and outperformed their peers academically. So moms that were waiting longer to have their children are more engaged and dedicate more time and resources to their education. Mhm. The flip side of that, what happens, you have small family or you have parents who are very, very dedicated to their child and overly focused, is that kids feel that they don't have enough autonomy. So older parents have smaller families. Often it's one child, but not more than two. And children get a lot of parental attention. And what can happen is that they can be overprotective and micromanage their children. And children may feel that they don't have enough autonomy, that they're overly watched and overly protected, and that they have very little space for themselves. Um, Children also report feeling different from their peers. And I do want to emphasize that this was really done with children whose moms were in their early 40s, and I can only imagine, what the findings would be if they've interviewed, moms who are, let's say, like in their late 40s or even early 50s that started family. So children are aware that parents are different, they're older, and that they feel self-conscious and embarrassed that their parents are so old. Some are ashamed to bring their friends home to meet their parents, and they're afraid that when their peers come to their home that they're going to call think of that their parents are actually grandparents. And they also are aware that their parents don't have much energy to participate in sports the way their younger parents can do. And another way, the reason why they feel different, from their peers is that there's a greater generation gap between, parents and children. So, the children may feel that their parents are a bit, very old-fashioned, that they don't understand their way of thinking, the fashion, the, music, their interests. And that so that there might be really bigger distance between, bigger gap between parents and children. Children also have a great fear that their parents will die. And it is also a fact that that may happen, but they're very afraid. They start to be worried that their parents will die early. And when children become aware of their parents' age, a lot of them actually become really worried and nervous, about leaving their parents. So they want to spend much time with their parents. They actually don't want to leave or go and hang out with their friends. They really want to spend time as much as they can with their parents because they're afraid that they're not going to be there for a long time. And at times, that can turn into significant worry where the child may not want to leave the home. And, for the fear that if the child leaves the home, for example, go to college or sometimes even go to school, then the parent will die and the child will not be there. There is certainly a significant impact, I do want to address that, of losing a parent at an early age. Children do, depend on their parents for a long time. It doesn't mean that, the child is now 18 or, 20, went to college and he or she doesn't need their parent. They need them for a long time, just in a different capacity. So, so they will continue to need their parents, even when they're in their 20s, often when they're in their 30s as well. we do know, that it's always a greater distress if the child loses a mom rather than a mother rather than the father. And the fact is, and this is, the table from actuaries, I think in insurance insurance, tables about our longevity, that if the parent is 45 at the time of, child's birth, a significant number, I mean, it's actually a fairly high number, around, up to like 20% may die, or the children may lose their parents at the age of 20, which is still very, very early. Children can become caregivers. So another thing, what happens that even if the child, and they may become caregivers at an early age, so even in their early or mid 20s. So the child will be faced with parents' declining health, and he or she may take on responsibility for the parents at a much earlier age than their peers would be. Um, and so even if you're, just something to think about, even if you're alive, in your, and hopefully you would be in your, 70s, it doesn't mean that your health will be in the, in the, best, you may not be in the best, physical condition the way you are, right now. So what happens with, children when they're in their 20s and 30s, they really may need to, as I mentioned, start to become caregivers, and they may actually concentrate on the job and marriages. And they're not able to concentrate on their own life, such as, finishing, school, finding a job, getting married. And they need to be focused on taking care of their children. And, in those situations when kids become at an early age caregivers, they may experience more depression and anxiety. Um, so what can you do to, what do you do? What can you do to, if you have a child, what can you do to help your child, deal with the fact that he or she has an older parent? There's certainly nothing that you can do about your age, that's given. But you can certainly take care of yourself as well as you can. Exercise, eat healthy. I mean, take care of your health. And if your child is worried, you can actually say, you can say that you can reassure your child, that you are doing everything that's in your power to take good care of yourself, and that you'll try and you do your best to be around for a long time. Um, and you also can talk to your child about pros and cons of having an older parent. For example, you can talk about this, that maybe you're not very good in running or playing basketball or soccer, but you're very good in reading, or you can like you like drawing or playing board games. And the fact that you can afford maybe good housing, good schools, you can afford trips, where some other his or her peers may not be able to do that. If you're starting, if you're just now considering or trying to get pregnant, think about, I would encourage you to think about, not only yourself, but also think about child's well-being, think about, child in yourself also in 20 or 30 years from now. Will you be able to meet child's needs? And I think the issue is, like, can you imagine yourself in 20, maybe if you're, let's say, like 45 now, so you would be 60 and you will have a teenager. So do you feel, can you think of yourself as with a teenager going through high school and all of the turmoils at the age of 60? Can you think of yourself as, at this point, do you feel that you have enough energy, physical and mental, to run after a toddler, which is extremely, physically demanding, and I think emotionally as well. And think again about your child. Can you think, where, how do you think, the child might feel about his or her peers, with an older parent? And something to, I would say, build a support network, build, have other families who are similar to you, have a support network, even if you're, if you're a single mom for sure, but even if you're not, a good support network of, family, other, family members if you have them, or friends, and that you kind of a plan for the future, who is going to be there to help your child, if you're not around. And here's kind of like a woman who is in the delivery room, delivered a baby. And she says, I told you I was too old to have a baby. And it says, it's a little man, so it's a boy. So, um, okay. So I think we're ready to start with questions. So feel free, as I mentioned, you have uh, on the right-hand side, you can actually um, type in your questions, and I'll get them, and I'll certainly be yeah, and I can get them. So, um, I received actually a couple of days ago an email, and they'll use this here and as a question. Um, about it says, I'm 47. Am I too old to be a mom? And basically, I have to say, I do want to talk about, some regulations and things that we follow uh, in, at least most of the fertility clinics. The American Society of Reproductive Medicine, and that's our parent organization, they provide, practice guidelines. They recommend and actually say that, for services, providing services to, menopausal women, that the age cutoff should be 50. So if you're planning to use an egg donor or oocyte donor, you can go up to the age of 50. So, technically, regardless if you're single or in a relationship, you can, most clinics, or at least I can talk about, Houston fertility specialists, that, you would be you can be helped and treated if you're until the age of 50. And the main reason is really thinking about, well-being of the child. If you're using an egg donor and a gestational surrogate, that limit increases. So it goes to, and depends, 52 or around that time. But again, even if you're not at risk, or the child is not at risk, because they're using a gestational, the pregnancy, I'm sorry, is not at risk. Um, because they're thinking about the well-being of the child, the age limit, there is an age limit. So, after a certain limit, it's strongly discouraged. I would say even not allowed. So, if you're 47, technically you can proceed. The issue is, do you feel, how do you feel about being pregnant at 47 and delivering a baby in 48? How do you feel, walking around, or going to the nursery, with your baby or a toddler? So, I think you're the one who will, you can make a decision. And what I showed before is those pictures with 50, with 65-year-old, getting pregnant. That really is, you know that would not happen in here. I mean, I would say in the United States and most of the European countries, because of the, regulations. So these are really, really extremes. So I'd say you're not too old to be, to proceed or be, with treatment, if you're, 50 or less, and possibly, a few years over that if you're, using a gestational surrogate. Well, I don't think, yeah. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. And yeah, I think I don't think we have any more questions. So I want to thank everyone for, for coming. I do want to tell you that we have a variety of, support available at the clinic, from, individual and couples counseling. And I do want to encourage you to come to we do have a donor parent support group second Monday of the month at 5:45 at our main location. So it's a really great group that meets with anyone who is considering using egg donor, sperm donor, or adopting an embryo is welcome. So it's a great way to meet people. And I am available. This is my contact information. I'm available for any questions if you may have. Thank you for coming. And you can, if you stay in touch, you'll be informed with all the uh, you know events that we have, which are monthly. And thank you everyone for coming this evening. We appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, feel free to call. Bye now.